When I say I'm a fan of Dead Island, I mean I'm a fan of Dead Island. I got the platinum for Dead Island 1 twice and for Riptide once. When I say what's it like to play Dead Island 2 as a real fan of Dead Island, I mean I played the absolute crap of Dead Island 1. I was 15 at the time of this game coming out, and it was my first horror game. And I thought it was really cool that it was also really my first introduction into the stereotypical zombie game, right? You had your Dead Risings and stuff. The Dead Island 1 was my Dead Rising. It was the first zombie game I had to play with. Again, it's kind of a basic, stereotypical zombie story, but it's on a beautiful island, and I love the beach. I love beaches. I love beautiful, part of the reason why I moved to California. But there was something about this perfect combination of a game of a genre that I've never really gotten into, which was horror. And again, this game wasn't really like super horror-y, but definitely as someone who doesn't play horror games, this game was terrifying as a 15-year-old. I hated how scary it was, but everything else about it kept sucking me in. Hardcore RPG player right here, bro. Like, in case you can't tell, this is my channel, I love RPGs with a freaking passion, and this game is the best zombie RPG game I had ever played in my entire life at that time. The gameplay in Dead Island 1 feels so good. It's really fast paced. There's something about just punching the zombies with your fists and seeing them ragdoll everywhere as Sam B is awesome. Or playing as Xian and having like this sword, this really sharp sword, and just going up to them and slicing their different limbs off. I had this awesome introduction into what a zombie RPG video game is in a setting that I find extremely fascinating. Beautiful island and that just got sent straight to the apocalypse. There was so much incentive to explore in Dead Island 1, even from the way that the map is set up. If you open up your map in Dead Island 1, it's all kind of grayed out, and the only way to bring light to these different areas is by walking into the different areas. Then different areas of the map light up. Again, this isn't the first game to do it, but my point is there was an incentive in going out and exploring in this game because you have to go and set foot in every little nook and cranny in the game, which there is a good payoff to doing. I remember one of the funniest things me and my brother found, which I think there might have been a side quest that kind of takes you into this area, but even if it doesn't, I remember me and my brother randomly walking into this bungalow and finding this zombie that is strapped onto a bed. The lights are kind of dimmed down, and it's like there's pink lights flashing at the bed. There's a camera pointing at the bed, and there's sexy music playing in the background. Maybe kind of an OnlyFans situation going on here before the apocalypse hit, but we thought it was the funniest thing in the freaking world, bro. Just finding that little thing along with a lot of other little things that the developers put in there is like, what was this person doing in this beautiful island of Banoi during their vacation before the apocalypse hit? You kind of build together the story that happened there without the developers straight up telling you what happened through a side quest or through the main quest. And I love that about Dead Island 1. So yes, I played Dead Island 1 and I loved the crap out of it, and I even loved the sequel. So what's it like going from playing a game that I loved so much as a child? When I first played this, I was 15 years old. It was in 2011. That was like 12 years ago, bro. This was before I was really into YouTube and watching YouTubers content and people's reviews on different games. So when I bought the game and I started playing it, I just loved it. And I played the crap out of it, and I got my brother into it. I told him why I loved it. He got really into it. And that was really just kind of it. There was nothing really else that could stop us from loving the game. The progression in the game is awesome. It really does feel like each character is unique in terms of the way that they play and the skills that they unlock when leveling them up. All the experience you gain from killing different zombies, from doing different side quests, being able to new game plus the game and get even more experience, being able to co-op it with a friend, and it was easy, just quick join, quick leave without there being any other things that you have to meet or reach. Just, man, it's just such a great game. Because even when I was exploring the island and just looking at different areas and things that I could explore, either because I wanted to fill up the map or just find more little story tidbits that the developers left in there, I didn't feel like I was wasting my time because I was getting so much experience from killing these zombies and finding new weapons that there was a point and a purpose in me exploring the map. I wanted to do it, and not just because it was interesting, but because I was also progressing and leveling up as I was doing it. In 2015, I wasn't into like watching YouTube videos or whatever, and like I think it must have been like 5-ish years later when I did end up looking up a couple of reviews on Dead Island 1. It turns out people didn't really like this game. people actually thought it was really bad. And while it did have its cult following, people did not enjoy the game overall. Because it was a very stereotypical zombie story, and the game doesn't look that pretty, and it can be a little bit buggy at times, and the driving doesn't feel that good. Like, I don't know, just, I have and I probably will always try to be the kind of guy who really highlights the good in a game rather than focus on the flaws. I'm not going to ignore the flaws, as you can go watch all my other reviews. I talk about the flaws. I just don't focus on them. I mention them, I acknowledge them, especially if they take away from the game from me. But what I do try to focus on is what makes the game fun. So yeah, Dead Island 1 is kind of special to me too, because it showed me it is completely possible to grow up absolutely loving a game that maybe isn't that revered by everyone else. And that is why to this day, whenever a new game comes out, yes, I'll watch reviews, and yes, I'll kind of take what they're saying into account, but I always try to play the game myself first and give my own opinions on the game before I really get deep into what other people are saying about it, or go into it with a certain kind of expectation. Dead Island 1 is the one that showed me you can love the crap out of a game that not many people like, and that is fine. So anyways, what was my story like? You know, Dead Island 1 came out. I loved it. Dead Island Riptide came out. I still really liked it, and it had a couple of quality of life improvements that made the game better in a way. I thought that the setting was better in Dead Island 1, while the setting in Dead Island 2 was meh. But I liked the new character that they added. I still felt myself getting attached to the same characters from Dead Island 1, because while again the story might not be that strong, you get to see multiple cutscenes with all of the main characters in this game, regardless of who you choose, interacting with each other together, both in Dead Island 1 and in Dead Island Riptide, which by the end of Riptide, even though, again, the story isn't that strong, you become really attached to these characters, and you see the four of them really care about each other and form this strong bond with each other, which just makes you love the overall game that much more. You don't really play it for the story, you play it for the gameplay, but you end up becoming really attached to these quirky little characters. And in the same way that Borderlands does this really well too, where you can see how each character is unique, quirky in their own way, and Dead Island 1 did a really good job at making each character fit a specific stereotypical role without it necessarily being too annoying or too overbearing. So I love Dead Island 1 and Dead Island Riptide. Amazing games. A couple years go by. Dying Light comes out. Finally, another game from the same people who made these games. I am excited to see what it's about, but I have a feeling it's gonna be very different. And it was. In terms of how it feels when you're actually fighting zombies, I thought it was an amazing game. Same Dead Island feel that I missed and I craved. The setting though was just dark and a lot more focused on horror. I will say I think the story was definitely better than Dead Island 1, but again, it took itself a little bit more seriously than Dead Island 1 did. Dead Island 1 and Riptide wasn't like, they were aware of the kind of scenario that they were in. It was always meant to be a little bit more funny, a little bit more joke-y, while Dying Light took itself very serious. I made a review on the game, loved it, great game. I still prefer Dead Island, but it's also just because they're very different when it comes to the overall tone of the game. Dying Light 2 comes out. I haven't beat it yet, you know? I liked it, I enjoyed the game, I played it a little bit, but it's Dying Light 2, not Dead Island 2. It's going a very different direction from where my Dead Island games were going. And Dead Island 2, out of nowhere, gets announced that it is actually still coming out. It'd been a journey for me and my brother. There's been multiple times that I was like, no, I don't know if that game's ever gonna come out, to yes, there was a small little bit of a chance and hope that it comes out, to the amazing trailer that dropped and just, dude, about to blow up. Like, me and my brother loved that trailer because it was just like, like, it's Dead Island, bro. Like, Dying Light is also an amazing franchise. It's great, but it's not Dead Island. We've been waiting for this game for years, and we finally got it. And what do we think? What are my thoughts on Dead Island 2 as a real hardcore fan of Dead Island 1 and Dead Island Riptide and just all these general zombie like this general genre of zombie RPGs? I'm very, very conflicted because while this game does take things from Dead Island 1 and Riptide that I loved and improve them and make them so much better, it took out a couple of main core components from Dead Island 1 and Riptide that just really made it hard for me to push through and still focus on what makes Dead Island 2 so amazing, because it is a great game that I really did enjoy, but I kept getting my vision so blurred because I was so focused on what Dead Island 1 and Dead Island Riptide were, and the things from that game that I wanted them to transfer to Dead Island 2 that didn't make it there. And unfortunately, it was some of my favorite things about Dead Island 1. This is probably the best way to say it. While me and my brother were playing Dead Island 2, we had such a certain feeling that we were kind of going for when playing this game that we weren't getting, that the first 4 to 5 hours of us playing this game were like, let's hurry up and beat this game so we can go and play the original and compare what we love about it. So we were like, at times, even just trying to blast through Dead Island 2 to just go back and play Dead Island 1. As this story continues, we keep going through the game, and we find out once we're about 20 hours in, like, hey, this feels really good. We're actually really enjoying Dead Island 2. Like, we're really liking this game. It's a great game. And it was great because we got to sit down and just talk about what made Dead Island 1 so great, what makes Dead Island 2 so fun, and what are the things that it's missing but maybe not as necessary in Dead Island 2 that's missing from Dead Island 1. So after that extremely long drawn out intro on how I got to this and my background with the Dead Island games, let's jump into my Dead Island 2 review and find out whether or not it's better than Dead Island 1 or if the OG takes the cake on this one. So let's talk about the gameplay. This is why you're gonna play the game. This is what all the other YouTubers have been saying, and I agree. You're gonna play Dead Island 2 because it feels great to kill zombies, bro. Like the way that you're smacking around these zombies, like slowly get destroyed as you're punching them or slicing them away. I've never really been much of a guy who enjoys gore in video games. So let me make it clear that it's not the gore that I'm talking about that makes it fun. I'm talking about like the actual, like when you're fighting the zombies and the way that they kind of ragdoll onto the floor, the way that they get sliced. Like, it's not the gory part that makes it fun. Is how powerful you feel when you're fighting these zombies that makes it fun, you know? So the gameplay is extremely fun. The game looks really, really good. It's a very beautiful looking game, especially going from Dead Island 1 to Dead Island 2. Holy crap, dude, this game's gorgeous. How do the weapons feel in this game? That and just some of the basic game mechanics. I think a couple of things that they added to this game that weren't in the original Dead Islands were like being able to dodge. I found myself really enjoying the dodge feature, and while they even added this feature where you can dodge, and if you do it at the right time, you can do this cool counter move on a zombie. There wasn't really any of that in Dead Island 1, so I think that was a huge improvement towards the Dead Island game.
With that, something else they added were all these special moves. Like, they have this really cool ground pound move they can do. They have certain abilities where you can like scream and give yourself certain buffs and whatnot. Any of the moves that were like physical, I thought were really cool. As for some of the buffs, I mean, they were okay. But my point is, these weren't in Dead Island 1, and I think add a lot to the game. I think it's super fun to just slam on the ground and see these zombies go flying.
Being able to add a dodge, being able to add a little slide, I guess is kind of cool. Being able to add like a heavy attack where you just hold down and like that's also really cool. I just want to like charge up this bat as hard as I can, release it, and just whatever things are in my way, I just want to send them flying. In terms of the variety of the enemies in this game, like they have all the classic enemies they have most of the classic enemies from Dead Island 1 and 2 Riptide. Not all of them made a return. Like, I know the ram from Dead Island 1 didn't come back. So my point is, these are called the Apex zombies, and I thought that they were great. I know this is something that the game has been getting some crap for, but I don't really mind it because while I think Dead Island 1 did a better job at it, Dead Island 2 is, wouldn't take away too many points. Whereas the fact that Dead Island 2 isn't hard at all, and even a lot of these Apex strong zombies, special zombies, aren't hard to kill. A lot of the thing that makes the Dead Island games fun is just being really strong and smacking the crap out of zombies and making them your little toys to just fling around, right? Dead Island 1 has this really cool balance where they actually make you feel like you are really strong against the zombies, but you take heavy damage from these zombies and you can die really easily. And while this can also happen in Dead Island 2, in Dead Island 1, the importance of money and the importance of what happens when you die and you lose a percentage of that money, it might not be that much, but you feel it, bro. And if you keep dying and dying, every time you die and then you lose a chunk of your percentage of your money, like, especially because money is so important in the first Dead Island, like, it's how you repair your weapons. It's how you upgrade your weapon. Money really mattered, and dying really sucked. And if you weren't careful, you could die in Dead Island 1 and you would feel it. While in Dead Island 2, I don't think there's any penalty to dying. Like, In Dead Island 1, they would clearly show you lose money when you die. Maybe you did lose money in Dead Island 2, but me and my brother never even really felt the need to check, because every time we died, we were like, lose anything? I don't think so. We would just kind of respawn and we just get to go try again. So again, it kind of makes it so it's like, who cares if I die, you know? Which again, isn't necessarily super important when it comes to a game like Dead Island, where it's not even hard in the first place, but it is something I think takes away a little bit from the game. It not being hard and there being no penalty to dying. But again, the Apex zombies are cool. I'm glad that they brought back some classics from Dead Island 1 and Riptide, and I'm even glad as to how they modified some of them. Like the Thug in Dead Island 1, it just goes up and smacks you really hard. And Dead Island 2 now, yes, it still smacks you and punches you really hard, but it can also do this really cool jump slam move. It can send you flying and do a lot of damage. I would say it's really cool, all the upgrades that these Apex zombies got from Dead Island 1 all the way to Dead Island 2, but again, because the game isn't necessarily harder because of it, it's like, it's cool that they added these upgrades to the zombies, like the Screamer, like the electric one, like it's kind of cool, but it also doesn't add too much to the game because the game is still really easy. Let's talk about the weapons. I think a lot of the weapons that you can make in Dead Island 2 are really, really cool. And again, because of the updated graphics, they look really cool too. They feel really good too. But are they better than Dead Island 1 new weapons, like the craftable weapons? I know it's a big thing in these games. They're about the same. I mean, I don't know, like I still think that Dead Island 1 really holds up in the way that you can make these weapons look really cool and they feel really good when you're fighting with these upgraded weapons. While in Dead Island 2, it's the same. I feel like they transferred it, but it wasn't that big of a leap. I do think that a lot of the mods that you can add to Dead Island 2, like the ones where like if you kill a zombie you generate more fury, or if you kill a zombie and it falls down it creates an explosion, that adds a lot to the crafting system in Dead Island 2. But another thing that takes away from it is, like, for example, you only being able to carry a certain amount of items to craft weapons with. Times again that I get it, like in Dead Island 1, where when you die there's a penalty for it. But if I'm out killing zombies and collecting all this loot,
why limit me in the amount of scraps that I can pick up to upgrade my weapons later? I really don't get it. I mean, maybe you could argue it's because you get so many of them, so they set a cap to it. You have to go, you have to upgrade, then you have to go back and get more stuff. But I just still think it's another silly little thing, the fact that I can't stack up my medkits. In Dead Island 1, you can have as many bajillion medkits as you want, while in Dead Island 2, you can only have 5, and that's it.
I'm sure there's a reason why they did it in capping the amount, but and for the reason why I was playing the game, I just kind of annoyed me. All the little elemental effects, you know, like the fact that you can walk into electricity and the fire, like I feel like in this game they really made it a thing where it's like, play with the environment. Make this wall of fire, or douse this fire with the water, or pour some water here and then electrocute all the zombies with the water that you poured on the ground. Me and my brother found that this whole feature, while it was meant to be used to kill zombies in really fun, creative ways, ended up being just how much more of a hassle for us. The amount of times that I died from fire or from electricity or, you know, whatever, like, it was just annoying. I didn't really feel like it added to my experience in terms of making it more fun to kill zombies. I just found it to be now another nuisance that I have to try and avoid, which I guess you could say, like, it's thrown in there on purpose to make the game harder. I'm sure of that, but again, like, I found it to be more annoying rather than a challenge to try and avoid. Bro, my characters, my characters. Dead Island Riptide ends on such a cool cliffhanger. Right, where it's like they finally escape from the island, I believe, and they make it onto the mainland, and they're on a boat, right? They're on a boat. So you are led to believe that these they're survivors that you played through all of Dead Island 1 and all of Dead Island Riptide with. They survived and they somehow make it to California or to the mainland, right? And I will say this, one of the most hype things that I was not expecting, because I hadn't looked too much into before the game came out, was when Gabe and I were watching, my brother were watching that opening cutscene of Dead Island 2, and at the very end, after you kind of got introduced to all the characters, Sam B just shows up with his new dreads and his new look and just kills that zombie, bro. It is the most hype. It was the most hype moment of all of Dead Island 2 for me. Like when Sam B showed up, I was like, yo, that's my boy, and they gave him an updated look. And then I started playing the game, and I hate to just lead into this, but that's not my Sam B, bro. That's not my Sam B. I think something like 5 years or 10 years are supposedly happened from Dead Island Riptide up to Dead Island 2, which it is canon, by the way. It is canonically the first 2 games happened before Dead Island 2, and that Sam B is the same Sam B that we knew, they made Sam B so different, bro. Like, again, I could kind of say it's okay in the way that he looks, because, like, my Sam B is bald, and he's a mean-looking thug. While this Sam B looks like they really remodernized him to make him to be a little bit more pretty boy rapper Sam B, rather than OG thug Sam B. You know what I mean? I wish we would have at least kept that. The old quirky thug Sam B, bald, and just brought him into this game and give him an updated look, but instead they took our Sam B and they modernized him, and he's still thug-ish and tough-ish. I don't know. It's just not my Sam B, bro. They didn't bring him back how I would have liked him to, and I get why they did it. It's because they're trying to make the story a lot more serious than Dead Island 2. And unfortunately, it sucks to say, I don't think that they did that good of a job. I wasn't super hyper enthralled in the story. So I almost wish that and that's why I think they try to make Sam be a little bit more serious and have him have a little bit more depth as a character. And they gave him this backstory where he has kind of like this love thing with one of the main characters in Dead Island 2. So I get why they changed them up. I get, the direction that they were headed. I just wish that the story would have been better, so that I would be like, I understand the change and it's worth it, and I'm glad that they did it because the story was so good. But unfortunately, I don't think that the story was good enough for me to say, you may have changed my old quirky Sam B into something else, but at least you gave me a fantastic story. I don't think, unfortunately, they did a little bit on that front. I wish they would have added a little bit more importance to the other games, but I'm not gonna focus on this point too much. What I mean is, like, I wish they would have talked more, had Sam B talk more about Logan and Perna and Shion, but like, I get it. The developers of this game have said in interviews and in videos online where like, this is meant to be like a reboot of the series. So this is cool because they did say that this was meant to be like part of like a trilogy, or like part of a series of games where like, you know, it's not just gonna be Dead Island 2. Like, we're gonna keep going from here. That excites me because I love Dead Island. But it also kind of sucks because I feel like I love Dead Island 1 and 2 so much, where like they could have made Dead Island 2 and have it have zero connection to the first Dead Islands. Give me a completely new cast of characters that I can fall in love with in the same way I did with Dead Island 1. But the problem and exciting thing is, they did bring back a character from the old games, and it was just one. So one way in which they can make it a little bit better for me is bring back all the other ones. I think the only one who's technically confirmed to still be alive is Logan. Well, who knows what happened with the other characters? Like, they might be dead, they might be alive. But something really cool that they could do is, as you know, more DLC comes out for the game, have each DLC have a character from the older games come back. That would be really cool. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't think it's gonna happen, unfortunately, because like I said, it is meant to be a reboot, and I think they're trying to move away from the original Dead Islands, but that would be really cool and make it feel a lot better. I would have been fine with them just leaving like Dead Island 1 and 2 was like its own thing. This is meant to be a reboot, but it's a reboot where they took one of my beloved characters and changed them into something else, and unfortunately, I miss my old Sam B. So what do I think of the characters in this game, right? The main characters, the characters you get to choose from. In the original game, you could only choose from 4. In this one, you can choose from, I think, a couple more, like 5 or 6 or something like that. Here's the one, there's 2 things when it comes to the characters in this game that I think is kind of missing. I think that, although, once again, we already said this a lot of times, in Dead Island 1 and 2, the cutscenes aren't amazing and the story isn't great, but there was something about getting to see each cutscene with all 4 of those characters, whether you chose Sam B, like, no matter who you chose, you get to see all 4 of them, and you get to know all 4 of them as you play the game. So, and it always makes sense for all 4 of them to be there, because you're supposed to be kind of playing as a squad, right? I think that adds to the game, because by the end of the game, I knew a little bit about each character, and especially by the end of Dead Island 2, and you saw that bond form between them in a way. You just kind of learn to love them a little bit more, because even if you didn't play as all of them, you got to see what they were each like. In Dead Island 2, you only get to experience the story as the character who you play as. Yes, that adds a certain level of replayability, because now I want to start a new game and I want to play through a different character to see all the different voice lines and all the different things that they said as they were playing for the main game, I think that's pretty cool. It was kind of cool and clever to see how the developers of this game managed to make each MC say something different, with the NPC always saying the same thing and still having a word. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was really clever. I'm not going to take away from that. But again, because of that, I have no idea what all the other characters are in this game, right? And I wish I could say that after playing with one of them, the story and the dialogue and all of that was compelling enough for me to be like, that was so cool. Now I really want to go back and start a new game with someone else. It's not. A lot of the dialogue and the things that your character says is really quirky. It's really silly. And because of that,
the story just isn't strong enough to be worth replaying again with a different character, at least as of now. I don't know if that'll change with future DLC or with the sequel, but at least as of right now, it's just not there. Not to mention the fact that Dead Island 2, I think, gets a lot more fun by the end of the game when you're really powered up. The beginning, compared to Dead Island 1, at least Dead Island 2, me and my brother both agree that it feels like kind of a slog. So that makes me want to start a new game even less with a new character, even if it would mean getting to experience the story in a slightly different way.
It's just kind of like, that is what Dead Island is. It's meant to be quirky. It's meant to be silly. It's not meant to be serious like Dying Light. You already have games like Dying Light. It's supposed to be silly and quirky. So while I had a good time playing through it and learning about the story a little bit in the first time around, I'm not going to play it 5 or 4 more times just to see what other silly, quirky lines of dialogue the other characters say. There's no point to it. So I do wish that they would have did what they did in Dead Island 1, where it's like each cutscene have all the characters be there, because they all do look so unique. And I think that there are some really cool creative takes on these characters, and getting to see them all interact with each other and form that bond would have been really, really cool. In the same way that happened with Dead Island 1. But clearly in Dead Island 2, y'all focused a lot more on making each character even more unique and even more special and even more quirky. And if you would have given me cutscenes where I could see all these people interact with each other as the main story is going on, that would have been so much better than in Dead Island 1. You know, it's a huge improvement.
In Dead Island 1, at the very beginning of the game, you get this really cool intro to each character where you get to read a paragraph, as well as it's them voice acting and sharing a little bit about their story where you choose each character. While Dead Island 2 doesn't have that, I think that they did a great job at making each character a lot more deep and you learning about each character through playing the game and hearing certain bits of dialogue. Imagine if they would have taken that and just put all the characters in a room together and had us learn about them in that kind of way. Would have been amazing.
Couple of other little gripes that I'm just gonna like list off really quick, because I don't really want to make too big of a deal, and at least I don't think I'm going to. But there were little things that did make me consider saying Dead Island 1 is by far better than Dead Island 2. But we're not at the end of the video yet, so I'm not gonna give you the final verdict till the end. But let me just give you a little couple more things. There's no slow motion in co-op. The thing that they did in Dead Island 1 and 2, or Dead Island 1 and Riptide, a little thing, but in Dead Island 2, they remove it. There's no slow motion if you're playing in co-op. If you're playing on your own, you do get to see it. I never played this game on my own. Oh, I know another little gripe that I had was like the safes. Like there's these little safes that you can open up in Dead Island 2. But for you to be able to open up these safes, you have to kill a specific enemy and they have to drop a key for the safe. And you don't really, you have a vague idea of where the enemy could be. Not just is there a chance that the enemy's not there, there's also a chance that you're just not high enough level for the enemy to even spawn. And you have no way of really knowing when you're going to be high enough level or when it's going to spawn. The fall damage in Dead Island 2 is stupid. It's still there in Dead Island 1, but in Dead Island 2 it's just stupid. The smallest little jumps and falls from Dead Island 2 will kill you, and it's so dumb. Again, the fact that in Dead Island 2 they limit your inventory and crap, that's dumb. A big goof about Dead Island 1 is that you don't share XP as you do in Dead Island 2. So there we go, that's something. In Dead Island 2, you don't get your Fury, your special power, till later, which this is something that I didn't even talk about, but Dead Island 1 I think does the Fury so much better just because that special move that you get with each character is very different in Dead Island 1. Each character gets a really unique Fury, which makes each character feel more special. While in Dead Island 2, everyone gets the same Fury. And while I get what they were going for, the more that you level your character out and max them out and get different skill cards, you can eventually make their Fury more unique and different, which is kind of cool, but they all kind of start off at the base. It's the same. I think I just liked a little more Dead Island 1 where it was very clearly very different Furies for each character, rather than Dead Island 2. They all have the same one, and you eventually level it up to be different. Something that I didn't even talk about, which was the biggest thing. I think that the progression system in Dead Island 2 was just not for me. It wasn't for me. I'm not going to say it sucks. I'm not going to say it's bad, because it's not true. That's not true at all. One of my favorite things about Dead Island 1 was that progression aspect, that leveling up aspect, that skill tree part, you know, where like me and my brother would start, we would play the game, we would explore, do whatever the heck we wanted, because we're leveling up and we're getting all these really we're leveling up, and the level ups feel really good, and each level up really mattered. You could choose from so many different options and so many different things to level up, and you could see the entire skill tree in front of you, so you always had something to look forward to or something to start building towards. So that feeling and that aspect of progression was so special in Dead Island 1, and it was similar to like in Borderlands, and it's just always there. You can always look at it. You always know what you're working towards and building to. Again, there's other RPGs that don't necessarily do that. You just gotta keep leveling up your character, and randomly you'll learn new moves, and that's fine, and it kind of works. The problem is in Dead Island 2, I almost don't see the point in leveling up, because yeah, you get experience when killing zombies. Leveling up doesn't feel the same as it did in Dead Island 1. Again, in Dead Island 1, I level up, and now I have a skill point that I can invest into a tree, and you can sit there for a good amount of time thinking and planning, like, where do I want to put this? You say, I'm going to use 3 of my skill points for these past 3 level ups to make it so that my blunt weapons now last longer by a certain percentage. And like, that's really cool, right? Like that's what you want. Like how most RPGs are. Once you learn a new move or you get a specific upgrade, you get to keep it. It might be small, but it stacks up, so by the end you're really strong. In Dead Island 2, they get rid of all that. They get rid of the skill tree. They get rid of that good feeling of leveling up, because I don't even really remember what happens. When you level up in Dead Island 2, you get more health. I think you get more stamina. And your weapons get stronger, because now you can find more weapons, find higher level weapons, and you can increase the level of your current weapon. But the whole skill tree is just gone. Instead of a skill tree and being able to look at different perks and allocate them where you want, and get really excited as to what kind of build you want to go for, you just get skill cards. And you don't even get a guaranteed skill card each time you level up. And it's not like it's unique and different to each character. You pretty much get the same pool of skill cards for each character. Some slight variations with specific cards, but for the most part, each character levels up and learns the same exact things as the other characters. Some learn them sooner, some learn them later, but it really removes the individuality of each character and making them feel unique with the moves and the skills and the perks that they learn. That's my biggest gripe with it, that there's no skill tree, and instead I got these skill cards, which is just such a oh man. And again, I guess it's kind of cool that there's different ways to get the skill cards. Some drop from enemies, some, you know, you just kind of find scattered throughout the game. Some you do get from leveling up, and some you get from progressing through the main story, doing certain quests. It's cool that there's a lot of more ways for me to get skill cards. And you know what would be really cool is if each time I found a skill card, I would just get to keep it and put it on. The problem is, certain cards, you know, you only have a really small amount of slots to put these skill cards into that you get as you know, you progress through the game. And whereas in Dead Island 1, when you level up, you get a little bit stronger, you invest into that skill tree, and that is with you forever. That little boost that stacks, it's there for the rest of the game. If I max out on the durability of my blunt weapons and I'm 30% stronger, that is with me for the entirety of the game. In Dead Island 2, you do get little boosts like that with these little cards, kind of. I mean, not really. They're different kind of upgrades. But my point here is, I got a skill card so that when I slide into a zombie, they get knocked down or they get sent flying a little bit. It's just a little upgrade. They do a little bit more damage, but that's it. Or really useful one where, like, when I get grabbed by a zombie, I can instantly counterattack and get them to back off of me. Just think of any kind of other upgrade you can get in Dead Island 2. Rather than them stacking and being kept with you, you are now forced to choose which upgrade you want to have on your character. The reason why this sucks is because some of these upgrades are really small and they'd be cool to have on there tacked on, because it's like, yes, I leveled up, I want this to get better, but they're instantly overpowered and overshadowed by way stronger, cooler skill cards. But the problem is, now you're putting on these better higher level skill cards, and you're having to remove these weaker ones that you should just be able to keep. It just sucks that I'm in a place where, like, I have to, like, it's okay, like, you leveled up, here's this new reward, but before you grab this new reward, you have to give me back one of the rewards I already gave you. That's how it feels like. And that, oh man, that was so, at the time, it made me feel really disappointed and really upset. And again, while the whole skill card mechanic is cool in its own way, like, it is cool, it works, and I do enjoy it, I was comparing it too much to Dead Island 1, and I think that was the biggest thing that kept making me feel like I think they messed up by not having that kind of a more classic RPG level up system. There's a small part of me that makes me think that they wanted to get rid of it to make it seem a little bit less like an RPG, because I think they were like, no, this is an RPG. This is a cool modern zombie game where you don't level up and have to choose a skill path. Woo, yeah. You know, because maybe for those people who don't like RPGs, they could be turned off by that. So now it's like, there's skill card, and this is how you improve your character, while also still keeping in the level ups to make us older RPG fans still feel like this is an RPG. I don't know, man. They had the skill tree in Dying Light 1 and 2. They had it in all the other ones. That's the biggest thing that they took away in Dead Island 2 that made me be like, I'm so upset. It sucks that you took this away from me. And it did affect my enjoyment of the game quite a bit.
Yo, Editor Noe here, and I'm done being a little poopy crybaby. I'm just gonna level with y'all. The skill cards are way more unique. They add a lot of buffs and abilities that are way cooler and way more special than the ones in Dead Island 1. I'm just being honest. And while yes, I still think that some boosts are smaller and some boosts are massive, and it's kind of like, why would I ever choose this smaller boost over this bigger one? But I guess that's kind of the cool thing, right? It's not like Dead Island 1 where your choices are permanent and whatever you choose you just kind of have to go with, or pay some money to respec your skill points. What's cool here is I can pause the game and change out my skills as I please, making it, some would say, even better. So I need to throw that in there. This is me after taking a little bit of time from originally recording this video. Dead Island 2 is dope. Dead Island 2 is this whole skill mechanic, the skill card mechanic. I am not going to say I like it more than my classic RPG way of going about it, but this is awesome. And it makes sense why they made it the way they made it, and I just had to throw that in there now that I'm being less of a poopy crybaby.
After taking everything into consideration, the way that it feels when you're killing the zombies, the way that the story plays, the way that the game looks, the way that it just, the overall, when you put everything together with the skill cards after you've maxed out your character, and after you get to see, like, I will say this, like, once you have your characters almost maxed out, that's when the stats and the stat variations really start to show. Even at the beginning of the game, my character had a lot more health than Gabe's character. He was dying a lot more consistently throughout the game than me, because he had less health. My character was a lot weaker to elemental effects than his, so I kept dying really quickly to those where he didn't. So I see how they did make each character unique in that sense. But in Dead Island 1, I just think they did a way better job at it. Overall, is Dead Island 2 better than Dead Island 1? Or is Dead Island 1 better than Dead Island 2? I hate to say it. I think Dead Island 2 is overall the better game. It is, for a fact. For a fact. It looks better. The mods are cooler. The story's better. It feels even better. Like, if Dead Island 1, it felt fun to kill zombies, and Dead Island 2, it feels even more fun to kill zombies. In Dead Island 1, they have this really bad shaky cam throughout the whole game. It's a lot faster paced. I feel like the zombies run at you faster, and you swing a lot quicker with your weapons, which could make it even more fun in some ways, but it also makes it so that you can get kind of dizzy at times. You know, the shaky cam is really bad. They fixed that down too. So while Dead Island 2 might feel a little bit slower, it's actually a little bit of a perk. It's better in some ways. So I think Dead Island 2, I hate to say it, objectively, it's the better game. It is, by far. I can say this pretty confidently. If you liked Dead Island 2, there is a chance that you'll get to go back to play Dead Island 1 and Riptide and really enjoy those games. There's a high chance, actually. Really, the only things that suffer are the games don't look as good, the shaky cam, but that's about it. You know, there are more things here and there, but if you like the overall experience with Dead Island 2, and you can put up with downgrading and graphics, killing zombies feels great in Dead Island 1. And there's a lot of other things I think brings Dead Island 1 up. Anyways, hopefully I'm able to edit this video into something that's a little bit more coherent and organized, and if not, who cares? Here's in this video was just an absolute brain dump of what I thought about Dead Island 1 and 2. Hopefully y'all enjoyed the video. Please let me know which game you think is better. If you played Dead Island 2 and you haven't played 1, are you gonna go play 1? If you played Dead Island 1 and Riptide, are you gonna play 2? And what are your thoughts? Anyways, Wolfpack, that's gonna do it for this video. Thank y'all so much for watching. I love you, Wolfpack. Don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to leave a comment, and do not forget to subscribe to all some amazing YouTube families out here. On that note, I love you, Wolfpack, and I will see you all next time. Peace.